Shalom everyone, and today we're going to study Parashat Koraḥ, the book of Numbers, chapter 16, verse 1. A terrible story, and I'll start with a question that I usually ask. This question I ask beginners. The question is like this. How many of you have an issue in which you know about certain things that if you do them, it will really harm you? It's not really hard to avoid doing them, but you're still doing them. Every human being has this problem. And another question, how many of us has issues about things that we should do? It's going to be really valuable for us, really an improvement if we do them, but we still don't do them. Okay? And again, the most intelligent, successful people still have this problem. And how is that connected to this parasha? If you notice, the last three parashot, Ba'alotcha naso inshlach lecha, okay, all of them deal with unbelievable stories of betrayal, of disbelief, stories of the children of Israel going through the most amazing, beautiful miracles without any precedence in the history of humanity, and they still failing to have faith and quiet and just follow. Okay? And what's the message of these three parashot? All of them coming in the month of Gemini. And what do we know Gemini is about? Gemini is about two who are one. And you can take it many ways, but one of them is that we know about the people from the sign of Gemini. It's like they have two aspects of their character that once it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And you know what? Every human being has this issue. Sometimes the Dr. Jekyll is coming out, and sometimes the Mr. Hyde. Sometimes we are really, how should I say, under the control of something really wrong, and we commit because of that all kind of atrocities that we hate ourselves for that. And sometimes we are doing things that are so wonderful that we are so proud of ourselves. And the question is, who is this person that is me that has two different voices, two different sounds, two different ways of thinking? And the answer is we have to go back to the beginning. And we have to understand that this world, our world, has been created in a very perfect state. As it says in Genesis 1, verse 5, there was a night, there was a day, one day. There was a night, that's the creation, that is not projecting but receiving the light, and there was a day which is the creator, that is generating the light and the energy. One day everything was one and perfect. Why it didn't stay that way? And the answer is that it didn't stay this way so we have the ability to have free will. And in order to have free will, we cannot live in a certain fixed environment. Life is not black and white. Life is not evil, just evil, or good, just good. It's mostly in the gray, and it's very hard to find out what's right and what's wrong. And therefore, any action that will be done from the point of view of the Creator that will take our free will away from us, this is impossible. Why? Because the free will is the main reason behind our reality, which means the reality that we humans experience for the last few thousand years. In this chapter of human history, which means, in the Jewish calendar, it's 5782, which means it's not 5782 from the Big Bang. It's 5782 since the game we know started, since the rules are established the way we know, since we have free will to choose between good or evil. So what about all kinds of humanoids, which means, you see, archaeology is telling us there were 9,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. It doesn't matter, because the question is not if it looks like a human. The question is if it thinks like a human. And thinking like a human means you can have positive thoughts, you can have evil thoughts. That's what makes you a human, and you need to make a choice. You need to come up with the understanding that there is a war, there is a system, and you need to make the choice. So what's the choice is about? Is the choice about choosing who to marry, which job to take, how much to take when somebody's asking you for a job, or how much to give? This is very shallow. And here the last three parashot are talking to us about something that is very common if you look at human history, or even at your own history. You look at human history, there's so many books talking about great, important leaders who were considered to be smart, successful, lucky, being able to see things that others don't see, therefore they became great leaders. And here comes this great, terrible mistake that you can say, like, how could that person make such a terrible mistake that would cost their lives, that would cost that will create a change in history, because they could not see or read reality properly. And that's going about ourselves also. How many times, how many moments do we have in our own personal past, moments that we look at them and say, I wish I did it differently. How could I be so blind? Or why I didn't see the warnings? Why I was so deaf to all the sounds and blind to all the visuals that warned me it was written on the wall, and I couldn't see that. Like if I could just go back 2 years ago, 2 months ago, 20 years ago, and in time and change how many movies were made about it. And the whole thing comes to one very important issue. And the issue is, what is the rule to be smart enough to make the right choices? And again, we see people who are very smart, very wise, very famous for being people of broad thinking. Okay, they became leaders or lead of big population, civilization, countries, armies, whatever, scientists, and you could see the person was really good at what they were doing. And then comes this horrible mistake. How couldn't I would see that? How come they didn't see it? And the answer is, we need to have the humility to understand that whatever looks logical does not really mean it's the right thing for us. And look, we're talking about Parashat Baalotcha, Parashat Eshlach Lecha, Parashat Koraḥ. All of them are talking about great people that saw miracles, that saw the power of God revealed in front of them. Still, it was not strong enough to stop them from doubting. It didn't stop them from making terrible mistakes. And we have to understand, this is not a document. When we're talking about the book of Numbers and these parashot, it's not a document that speaks about how evil people can become. Doesn't matter how much good they experience. It doesn't matter how many miracles they experience. It's not the issue. The issue is about one very important thing. whatever can happen to us, even God by himself intervenes in our daily life and show us a miracle after a miracle, a minute after a minute, an hour after an hour, day by day, week by week, month by month. Still, as human beings, we need to come to those places that we need to make a choice. And if we just base that choice on our belief systems or base it only on our logic, we will fail, because we could see in these stories people with great belief, with great faith, people who were great on their own, smart people, they failed one by one. And the question is, what is the lesson for us? It's not evil, bad mouthing, great people from the past. This is not the purpose of the Torah. The purpose of the Torah is to give us a warning, which means never ever trust your thinking, because you'd never know if it can lead you, mislead you, lead you to a great future, or mislead you, because it's not enough to be smart. It's not enough to be in an environment of miracles and God's visible intervention, because this is not enough to guarantee positive choices. Why? We can never be robbed from our destiny, which is to make free choices, to have free will. So when people say, just God, if you just give me this miracle and that miracle and that miracle, I will be faithful for you forever. You know, that's the, so many people have this question. And an answer is, even if God comes down from the heavens and plagues your biggest enemy, 10 great plagues that the whole world can testify, then he will split the Red Sea just for you and the whole world will know. It doesn't mean that you will choose always good after that. So we have to remember, we cannot, like most people do that, we cannot put our trust in that thing that if the world was a nicer world, and there will be more justice, and there will be less hungry people, I will have faith. And here we have this great test of the Israelites in the desert. Okay, the bad guys, the Egyptians, are gone. The Egyptian empire is finished. They can't chase us anymore. We're in the desert. We have endless sources of food, manna from heaven, water from the stone. We are protected, and we still have a bad inclination, which means we humans will choose evil that without any connection to how just is our environment. And so it's not an excuse. If I lived in a more just world, I'll be more faithful to God. I'll be more religious. I'll be more a person that has more morality. Don't even think like this. Why? Because you're missing the point. The point is that where we are right now, this is the place that we have to facilitate, to manifest, to establish the next stage of our life with what we have. So all of these dreams about, what if I made a better choice? What if God was nicer to me? What if the world was not so mean? What if I lived in another environment, different time in history? Then my life will be much better. Don't even go there. You're missing the point. The point is, wherever you are, that's where your free will is supposed to be, and look for it over there. So, what is the background for that? And how, the most important thing, how do I guarantee myself? How do I secure myself so I will be able to make the right choices? How can I lift myself above all the dark options that I face every day? I can mess it all up and I can really exalt myself and bring myself to places I've never even imagined I can, because I am a human being. And human beings can mess it all up, and or we can reach higher than the angels. So what should we do? What are the tools that we should train ourselves with in order to be able to understand where is the free will sitting, where it's lying? How do we connect to it? How do we really establish and manifest true, real free will, in which we really know where is the free will? And as I said again, you can be smart, wise, experienced, righteous, whatever. Still, you will have those moments that you have to fight for choosing what is right, because easy comes, easy goes. If it's too easy, it doesn't have a worth. And therefore, it doesn't matter if you are righteous, wise, smart, and so on, and still you will have to make those hard choices. How do we basically prepare ourselves for that? Because most of people, they are not prepared, they have no idea, and the result is that most people have a difficulty looking backwards without blaming themselves and others. And that blame, personal, blaming oneself or blaming others, takes so much energy. It's a very, very weakening, because it takes away your power to live and to face the future and to really take control over your life. So our story is like this. We're talking about, I'm going back to the story in the Torah, chapter 16, the book of Numbers, verse 1. ויקח קורח בן יצהר בן קהת בן לוי ודתן ואבירם בני אליאב ואון בן פלג בני ראובן. We hear it, the story is like this. After the story of the spies, they were not really spies, they were the 12 best people of the nation of Israel. Okay? The most talented, the most righteous, the most wisest, the closest to Moses. And they go that, like right now, the Israelites, a year and a few months after the Exodus, and they are there standing in front of the Holy Land. They're just in the south of what is today the south of the Negev, maybe north of the city of Eilat of today, in Midbar Paran. Okay? So, if they go a little bit north, they're already entering the Promised Land. So they're sending those 12 men for 40 days journey, all the way up to the north and to the east and to the south, in order to report how can we invade and take that land. And they come up with a terrible result, and what comes out with the famous decree that you will hear in the desert for 40 years, till this generation will wilt and die, and only the people who are younger than 20 will enter at the moment of that story of the spies. Only them, in 40 years, only them can enter the Promised Land and inherit it. Okay? And that happened 40 years later with Joshua. Meanwhile, they go back, they turn around, they go back to the desert. And now, Koraḥ, who was a cousin of Moses, he was one of the wisest people in the whole nation. Okay? He was a Levite. And he was already carrying very high office in the nation. As a Levite, as a head of his tribe, as a chairman of many very important boards, as a wise man in all the laws of the universe and stuff like this. And he gets with him some of his neighbors from the tribe of Reuben and other people. And they all gang upon Moses and Aaron, 250, again, leaders. You read verse 2. ויקומו לפני משה ואנשים מבני ישראל. They're joining with him, with Koraḥ, 250 נשיאי עדה, presidents of their own in the congregation. קריאי מועד אנשי שם, people of good name. Okay? We're not talking about commoners. We're talking about leaders. And they come to Moses and they say, I'm reading verse 3, and they come to Moses and Aaron, they say, Rav lechem, you guys have enough power and fame. Ki kol ha'eda kulam kedoshim. Everybody's equal in holiness. You guys, Moses and Aaron, are not that holier than everybody else. We are all holy. Isn't that a nice statement? And God is among all of us, which is also a very nice statement. You know, however, you know how it is? People can make amazing statements about unity, equality, whatever, and it's all evil. And they mean evil. Why? Because there is an agenda, there's a hidden agenda. What's the hidden agenda? How come you guys have the power? You know, Moses and Aaron, you led the people till the land of Israel. Okay? We missed the opportunity to get in. Now we're being sentenced for 40 years wandering the desert. Okay, Moses and Aaron, maybe it's time to change the leadership. Okay, you did your job, failed. Now it's time, logical, right? Now it's time to change leadership. We are good as you are. Okay? Verse 4. וישמע משה ויפול על פניו. And Moses hears and he falls over his face. Let's see what the commentators are saying about it. Rashi says, ויפול על פניו מפני המחלוקת. He feels, he hears, this is a dispute, not a good one. It's coming from the wrong place. And he says, this is already the fourth stink. How could I, Moses is thinking to himself, how could I fix this again? I'm tired of it. There was the first thing was with the golden calf. Moses was fighting like a mother protecting its kids, her kids. Okay? Then the people complainers. That was after that. And then with the spies, God wanted to kill all of them, and Moses says, no, don't touch neither of them. Okay? Then came the story with Koraḥ, and Moses said, like, how could I do it? How could I do it? So finally, the question is, what happened to Koraḥ? A wise, righteous, powerful person. Why did he do that? Why does he want? He wanted, the story is that he wanted the job of Aaron. We see it from the next few verses. He didn't want Moses' job, but he wanted Aaron's job. Basically, it started because he wanted the job of the president of the tribe of Levi. And that was given to another cousin of his. Okay? And from that moment on, he started to feel, and you know, the sages are saying, when the moment you feel hurt, insulted, and your expectations are being simply, you just are disappointed, there is a system of hurt inside you that hurts you. And we know. What does that mean? And today, that there's so much research about psychology, because the question that I was asking in the beginning is not a biblical question. It's a question of every human being. You know, somebody divorced their mate, and then years later or months later, how could I make such a mistake? How could I be so mean to somebody who loved me so much? Okay? Somebody else, like, how could I miss this business opportunity? It was just in front of me. I didn't see it. If I said yes, that could be something, I could be a billionaire right now. You know, how many people has this question? Science is researching this issue for decades already. And this is what we want to know. You know, what should I do to put myself in a place in which I do not betray God and all the opportunities that He puts in front of me? And I steadily just turn my back to all of these great opportunities. How do we minimize those mistakes? And here we know, as we learn, because that's Koraḥ, he wanted another job. He wanted a better job. Okay, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that is not that he wanted a better job. There's nothing wrong in wanting a better job. There's nothing wrong in wanting to upgrade yourself. There's nothing wrong in wanting to excel and to reinvent yourself all the time and to aspire and to have dreams about a better life. There's nothing wrong about it. So what was wrong with Koraḥ? What was his mistake? He saw Aaron's job. He wanted it, so he went for it. Okay? And the Zohar is teaching us, the Holy Zohar is teaching us what was wrong with Koraḥ's initiative. So we start with verse 3 in the Zohar Perush HaSulam. Tachazei, come and see. Aaron Yemina, Levi Smola. Aaron, if you know the Kabbalistic symbolism, Aaron the high priest, he was a manifestation, a chariot, for what is called the right column, which is the energy, the frequency of loving kindness, which is called in Hebrew chesed. Okay, or right column. Levi Smola, the Levites, Koraḥ was a Levite. Okay, Aaron was also a Levite, but he transformed himself. He transformed himself and he generated and he created from himself something that was not there before. Something that he just created. As the Zohar says, his actions brought him to that place, that with his ongoing actions of loving and kindness to every person in the nation, he became that chesed that we are talking about forever. Now he's a symbol, Aaron is a symbol of unconditional love, kindness, and sharing with people. Okay? The Levites took the place of judgment. They were the ones who singing. As the Zohar says, in order to be happy and excited, you need the left column, fire. Fire is not always bad. Judgment is also not always bad. The word in English is wrong. The word is gevura. Gevura means one aspect of it is judgment, but gevura means also to להתגבר, to overcome. Gibor is a hero. And to be a hero, you need fire. You need a might. You need power. To overcome negativity, you need power and might. And that's called gevura, which means judgment can be internally or externally. Judgment can be fermenting negativity inside, or judgment means to take initiative and to destroy that negativity. Okay? That depends on what do you do with that judgment. The Levites, and Koraḥ was a Levite, is judgment. Therefore, the Levites were responsible for the carrying of the tabernacle and the singing, among other things. Koraḥ רצה לעשות חילוף הימין לשמאל. Koraḥ wanted to exchange the right column with the left column. שרצה כהונה, because he wanted the priesthood. How could he do that? Why, he didn't know what we just know. He was much wiser than each one of us, could be more than most of us together. Okay? How could he do that? And the answer is, שנמצא בו בלשון הרע. He had a bad mouth. What did he bad mouth? And now we have to go into the rules of bad-mouthing, Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is not what you say. It's why do you say it? What the context that you say it. You know, you can say the same thing about somebody, and that's exactly the opposite of Lashon Hara. And you can say the same thing, and this is the epitome of Lashon Hara. It's not, Lashon Hara is not about what you say. And Lashon Hara, by the way, is about saying the truth. Lashon Hara is about what is your intention. Which means if you speak evil, and you just say the truth about somebody, and that has a value. You know, you speak bad about, you work in the city, municipality, and you witnessed some atrocities of the mayor or somebody else in power, and you go and you tell it to the city, one of the city authorities that is responsible for monitoring. Okay, this is a must, which means you're doing a right thing. You're supposed to do it, and although you say something that hurts somebody, okay, but it's a very important thing to say. Because there is a value for that, and that's not called a Lashon Hara. You witness a theft, you witness any kind of a crime, you go to court to witness for the victim. Not witnessing is a felony according to the Torah, because if you don't witness and the victim cannot be supported by court, then that's against the Torah. Okay? So you say something, you say the truth about a person, and that makes justice come out. That's not Lashon Hara. Okay? But if you say the truth about somebody who did something wrong, and it doesn't bring anybody value except from your own feeling of being better than somebody else, which means it's only feeding your pride, this is Lashon Hara. When you tell about somebody else the truth that belittles them, and you think it makes you greater, this is Lashon Hara. Okay? So we understand over here what Koraḥ wanted to do. He came with the idea that, now we're in the desert for 40 years, it's my time. Why can't I be the high priest? The question is, did you do it because you think you can bring value to the people? Or just it was your little ego? And we all have that little ego. The moment we are in a body, till we are out of that body, we have that little ego. And whoever says that he does not have that little ego, he would be lying about the other things too. And the greatest teachers in the Talmud said so many times something very important. Never ever believe yourself till the last moment of your life. Even though the whole world is saying that you're a complete righteous person and you are like an angel, never ever trust and believe yourself. Why? That thought, that emotion of little ego can come up and mess the whole thing up. Okay? So if we are not aware that this is a possibility, then that's where we fall. That's our downfall. And therefore, Parashat Koraḥ and the previous parashot are about teaching us the fact that you are studying Torah, the fact we got Mount Sinai revelation. Okay, that was in the beginning of the month of Sivan. Okay, that does not guarantee that game is over. It's just a beginning of the game, because we have now that you know the rules, you have to gain godliness. You have to gain closeness to God, because now you have the rules. Now you have to overcome all the challenges, because you will be given the challenges, and these challenges come first and for all deep inside, from within. And it starts with this little ego. that on one hand, I want the job, and therefore I have no problem to go and demonize somebody else, not because there's something wrong about them, just because I want the job. Not because that I really have a better idea how to run the business. Just because I want the job, because I want the feeling of being in a better place, in a place that I think has more honor. By the way, people that are really committed to true spiritual growth and true spiritual work, it doesn't matter what is the job that you got. If you really put the effort in excelling, we can see it everywhere. You can take a job that nobody cares for, and you can make it a job that everybody wants. The value of having the title. Why? It's people who make the job. It's not the job who make people. You can have people that take the job that does not belong to them. You know, the Torah says, you know, it's not just in it's not in the 5 books, but it says in the prophets that one of the worst things is to give a slave the job of the king. What does it mean a slave? What does it mean a king? We're not talking just about a king. We're talking about any job of power and authority. If you give it to this person that has a slave mentality, what's a slave mentality? We just see it over here. Blaming, complaining, not taking responsibility. That's a slave mentality, which means everybody's fault it is, it's never mine. That's a slave mentality. Everybody is terrible, it's only I am perfect. That's a slave mentality. Okay? And deep inside, it's about blame and shame and guilt. That's a slave mentality. Okay? There's no commitment, there's no taking of responsibility. That's a king mentality. And we have daily, sometimes hourly, to make those decisions. What kind of a mentality do I want to take? And that's where you tell the difference between the men and the boys, between the winners and the losers. And it could be any human being. We human beings, that's the name of the game. And we have to remember that. So how do I, that was the question, how do I extend my chances to be in the right place, in the right time, making the right decision? Verse 4. What does it mean in Koraḥ took? That's the beginning of the parasha. What did he take? It doesn't say what he took. And the commentators, not just the Zohar, are saying he took a bad advice. Which means he came to the story with, I'm here to take. And you know, the moment you feel in any kind of a negotiation or discussion that the person is in a taker point of view, you know something's wrong going to come out of it. Because in every negotiation, you know what they say, you should start with the right foot. So what if I got into the room with the left foot? So is that a bad omen? No. Starting with the right foot means that you come in with the first thing is the intention of what value am I going to bring to all the different parties of the negotiation. That's starting with the right foot. That's starting with chesed. That's starting that first and for all, I'm here to give. What am I here to give? You know, you open a business. If the thought is about making money from people, that's starting with the left foot. That's starting with the judgment. Doesn't work. Starting with the right foot means I want to bring value to other people, and therefore I will make all the effort. When you come, to any aspect of your life, starting with the right foot, which means bringing chesed, value, that's the most important thing. Oh, of course, then you can say, you know, in order to guarantee my sharing and my giving and my contribution, I need to make also money so I can, you need, if you don't have income, you cannot spend on anybody anything. Correct? But if you start with taking, that's starting with the left foot. And Koraḥ started with the left foot, which means, what's in it for me? That's normal. This is really normal. This is natural, but it's not lucky. Why? The moment you're focusing, we as human beings, we're focusing on ourselves, our own self-gain. As I said, this is normal. We're born like this, but that's taking us away from the frequency of God, the frequency of sharing, because there's a law of affinity that says that similarities attract. You want to attract yourself to endless power, bliss, and happiness, you have to start with the right foot. You cannot start as Koraḥ, Vayikach Koraḥ. He came to take. So because he came with that intention to take, that's why he listened to the bad advice. And what was the bad advice? Why can't you be Aaron HaKohen? Why can't you take the job of the high priest? If you would ask around any person in the camp of Israel, who is the most giving person in the whole camp? Who is the person that loves people unconditionally more than anyone else? Everybody will tell him it's Aaron. And if it's Aaron, you want his job, you know what? There's nothing wrong about it. Do what he did. Start going around helping people, making them love you like they love Aaron. And you know what? When you do what he does, maybe you can get what he got. That's called positive jealousy. That's called kinat sofrim tarbe chokhmah. You see what he does, you don't want what he has, but you do what he did in order to get what he got. That's positive. That's called inspiration. That's called learning. That's called that positive thinking. They work so hard, let me learn from their deeds so I can get. He didn't do that. He wanted a job, but he was not willing to give what it takes. And how could Koraḥ do that? Why? He didn't know these rules? He did. The problem is the moment our cravings are taking over, we become blind. And that's what we have to remember. So how do I know that I became blind and I'm taking the wrong road? And I'm risking myself, because that's, the Zohar continues, כל הרודף אחר שאינו שלו, הוא בורח מפניו, ולא יודע למה שיש לו נאבד ממנו. Whoever is trying to take what doesn't belong to him, not just that what he wants to take runs away from him, but he will lose what he has. Koraḥ רדף אחרי שאינו שלו. Koraḥ tried to get what doesn't belong to him. שלא עבד, he lost what he had. His fame, his richness. By the way, Koraḥ was the richest person in the world. I don't want to go into the story. He had everything, okay? Wisdom, richness, he lost everything. And he became a name of, when you want to tell about somebody, he's evil, he's nasty, he wants what doesn't belong to him, he said, that's Koraḥ. He's still famous, infamous, thousands of years later. Okay? Why? And verse 5, Koraḥ halach b'machloket. Koraḥ went into a dispute. How do you know that's a dispute and not a real negotiation? Because when it is a dispute, it's a different attitude. It's not because you want, when two people are arguing, there's nothing wrong about it. If you really want to bring value, positivity, and you really insist on it, and you come from the place of making things better, your attitude will be much more positive, and there is a chance something better will come out of it. And we know if there's no argument, there's no wisdom. If everybody thinks the same and everybody is afraid to argue, because if we argue, there will be a fight. If you live in a society like this, there's something terribly wrong. All research, modern research, shows that it's a business company, it is a country, it is a community. The moment people are afraid to argue because they're afraid that, oh, that's not unity, we all have to say the same things. That's not unity, that's fear, that's stupidity. And whenever there is no place for negotiation and arguments, the sages are saying there will be no wisdom. And it is known. Companies that are being run but by one opinion, countries that are being run by one opinion, the moment they face challenges, their ability to deal with the challenges is so minimized because there's no flow of ideas and there's a fear of raising ideas. You know, one of the big plus, for instance, in Israeli companies that are leading the world with startup, is because the fact that you are the boss, it doesn't mean that you're right. And we can argue with you. Of course, there are Israeli companies that the boss is a tyrant, and that's why, you know, many companies that the boss has only one opinion and nobody is allowed to dispute him. Those companies cannot really grow. This is scientifically proven. You need to have a free flow of ideas. So when the environment is of free flow and people share their ideas with respect to each other, this is no dispute. This is called today brainstorming. Okay? And brainstorming is a must in order to achieve growth. But when you come with dispute, which means the fact that you argue is not because you want the truth to be shown. It's because you feel pain, and because of that you develop hidden hostility. And when that hostility takes over, you were poisoned. Your brain is poisoned, your heart is poisoned. Whatever you're going to do will be finally your deathbed. And that's the warning for each one of us. So, verse 6. What is dispute? Dispute is pushing away Shalom. And what is Shalom? Part of the meaning of the word Shalom is peace. But the real meaning of the word Shalom is wholeness, completion, which means I'm not complete without you. I have a different way to see things. You have different ways to see things. But I know how limited I am because my point of view is partial. I know how limited is your point of view because your point of view is also partial. However, when we share our point of view and talent, we become more complete, and therefore we need each other. That's the real meaning of the word Shalom. So if you go to the prophets, and the way the prophets speak about world peace will not happen when there's no nations and no boundaries anymore. World peace will happen when every nation will flourish and create the way they're meant to be. When every nation, on one hand, will be busy being themselves and develop their own unique culture, civilization, ideas, the way they are specially meant to be, the way God created them. And then their creativity will mingle with other nations' creativity. When that will happen, when there are really clear boundaries between one nation and culture to another, not because of hostility, because of respect. I respect you the way you are. I do not want you to become me. I don't want you to think that I can become you. And you know what? Together, we are much more than each one of us. So I need you. I appreciate you. I respect who you are, and because you respect who you are. But if I cannot respect my own tradition, if I do not know my own tradition, if I don't know what's my unique abilities, and I'm trying to be like, like somebody else dictates to me so I can be with everybody else on the same level and same plane, how could I develop my special, unique traits? Because the light that I need to bring to the world, only I can bring that light to the world. And I cannot do somebody else's job. That's on the national level. That's on the individual level of every person in each nation. Shalom means that every person is really deeply connected to his or her own special, unique talents and abilities, and we all respect each other. So when somebody is different than I am, this is not a threat. So I do not hate them. I respect them for being what they are. I respect them for their loyalty to their own special abilities, and they will respect me for my own special abilities. And only when we really need each other, because I know he can't be like me and I can't be like him. So I need him to complete me, and I need her to complete me. And that could be in marriage, it could be in everything. Shalom means that I'm part of something much bigger, and I have to respect what's around me. Koraḥ did not respect the special qualities of Aaron. He wanted a job, but he did not want to respect Aaron's qualities. He did not want to change his qualities to become worthy of being a Kohen. He was a Levi, which was a high level position. He didn't respect his own duty, his own calling. What was the result? Hatred, annoyance, fight, and then everything collapsed. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed Koraḥ and everybody who followed him. Why? Because Shalom, says the Zohar, is the name of God. Whoever disputes Shalom, the concept of Shalom, as we said, the concept of Shalom is every person has the right to be unique, different, special, and that does not threaten anybody else. And therefore, whoever disputes Shalom, he did not dispute Moses, he did not dispute Aaron, he disputes the principle of Shalom. Okay? Now, let's move to another place in the Zohar. So how do I know I'm not messing up with Shalom? So the first thing, we go to Rabbi Akiva and Hillel the Elder, 100 years earlier. Hillel the Elder was like more than 2,000 years ago in Jerusalem. Rabbi Akiva also in Jerusalem, and later on outside in Israel, 100 years after Hillel the Elder. And both of them, when they came to explain like what's the main thing in the whole Torah, they brought the idea of love others as you love yourself. And they brought it in the way that I experienced that is because it's very hard to love other people. However, and to love everybody, that's almost impossible. I think it's impossible for most human beings. However, so how do I make that idea practical for me? And the answer is very simple. When I feel that people annoy me, upset me, that I feel alienated, I know first and foremost that something is wrong with me, which means I am not really in the frequency of love, and therefore whatever ideas and decisions that come up to my mind and my heart will fail me. And that is known scientifically today. It's called the moment we have emotions of animosity, hatred, negativity, that brings diversion, which means we will see the picture, we'll see all, let's say it, now that never happens, but let's say I see all the facts, all the details of what's happening in front of me. But my emotions of animosity, annoyance, hatred, envy, and so on will divert my final decision. You can never ever trust yourself when you are in such a state of mind. That is scientifically proven, and that's how we understand when a person just follows his ideas, other people's advices, and you're not aware that deep inside there's a fermenting hatred, fermenting discomfort. You're not aware of it. You do not train yourself to be aware of it. If you're not fighting it, you will become a victim to all kinds of terrible advices, terrible ideas that you won't be able to see. How dangerous it is to your life. So the first thing is training yourself all the time to listen, feel our own deeper feelings and emotions. The moment I'm aware to it, and then I take the ongoing steps to avoid negative emotions like this. When I'm coming up to discuss issues with somebody else, and I'm not annoyed, not afraid, I don't feel discomfort and so on, I can easily create a discussion that will be called brainstorming, which is basically the definition of peace, of Shalom. What does it mean? I'm learning from you, you're learning from me, and the fact that we don't think exactly the same, we complete each other. We need each other, and therefore it's interesting for me to hear your different point of view. Okay? When I'm in such a mood, go for it. But if everything the other person is saying it's annoying, upsetting, and I can't feel love towards that person, and I can't appreciate who they are, what they are, I'm in a wrong place. Don't make decisions. Do not make decisions, because whatever you're going to say or decide is going to be used against you in the big picture of choosing your faith. So the Zohar continues, verse 14. The moment Koraḥ came with his accusations, Moses and Aaron fell over their faces. Come and see. Why did they fall over their faces? Masru et nafsham lemita. If that person hates us so much, we probably did something wrong. And therefore we are willing, if we did something that wrong to make him feel so horrible, if we hurt him, we're willing to die. We're giving up everything. Not just our jobs, our lives. במה? משום שכתוב ויפלו על פני ויאמרו אל אלוהי הרוחות. And what does that mean? When a person is basically, when we are listening to the information given to us, and it awakens a reaction within us, the first thing is to react like Moses and Aaron. I'm not saying you should fall over your face physically, but the fact that it's shut down everything could be that I'm totally wrong. And I usually describe it as a stop sign. What does a stop sign mean? It means full stop. Not kind of slowing down. Full stop. Okay? Which means whatever I feel, whatever I think, full stop. Maybe I'm totally wrong, maybe I'm half wrong. Maybe I'm not wrong, but if I'm not coming to a full stop, which means maybe whatever I feel, think, see is wrong. Stop everything, open up. That's a full stop. There's a little problem. Many people emotionally think full stop means to restrict, which means I have to restrict myself and hold back. That's not a full stop. You know, people say, I could have said to him, I should have said to her, I have the ability to tell them that much, I'm going to finish them off. That's not a full stop. You don't say anything, but you're still regurgitating the same emotion. And that emotion takes over you till it explodes. Inwardly, as a disease, outwardly, as a behavior that is unsocial. A stop sign is also no parking sign also. So restriction is a terrible thing, because holding it in is a parking. You're parking, you're just staying there for a minute, an hour, a day, a lifetime in the same emotional spot. A stop sign means no parking zone. The moment you come to a full stop, look ahead, and when the road is clear, choose a direction and go there. And take yourself out of the intersection. Clear the intersection. That's what a stop sign means. Come to a full stop and clear immediately, as soon as possible, the intersection. Correct? When people do not do that, you have traffic jams. Everybody suffers. Okay? Not just yourself. So how do you do that? The first thing, you're willing to die. What does it mean? Full stop. I'm not right. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm willing to give up all my opinions and all my attitude. Just I'm opening myself to God's advice. Choose the light. Choose what is good. Choose enlightenment. Pray, meditate, think about connecting to the Creator. That, and then move on. That's called the power of overcoming. You stop the reaction to whatever somebody said or whatever happened, but immediately you look for the connection to the light, the connection to love, greatness, hopefulness, faith in the good. But what does that mean? So the Zohar continues, verse 15, and it says, Rabbi Yehuda patach, Rabbi Yehuda opens, and he's bringing us an amazing discussion between Job and his friend. You know, Job he was not a Jewish guy. It was before the Bible. Okay? And he has a deep problem. One disaster after another. And the guy is faithful. And he's sitting there and he's like, I don't know what to do. And his friends are giving him advices. How to deal with his disasters on the philosophical, emotional, and faithful level. And the beginning is, it says, the Zohar says, whoever comes, in the beginning that he doesn't react very good to his friends. And the Zohar says that is to show us, when somebody is in pain, don't just come to him and says, have faith in God, everything is for the good. You can't tell that to somebody that is in pain. You have first to make him feel that you care, that you have compassion for him, and that he feels a hug and embrace you, that you embrace him. And before that, they're not willing and not capable of listening to any idea, because right now pain takes over. So if you want to tell them something, this is not the time to tell them anything, not even wise words. Just give them love. And that's why, whoever comes to console the mourner, first you have to make him feel embraced and the compassion. Don't ever try to convince him that everything is for the good, because they are not ready for that. But then later on, they continue with those amazing words. This is the book of Job, chapter 34. Amazing words. And it says, לכן אנשי לבב שמעו לי. People of heart, listen to me. חלילה לאל מרשע. Again, this is Job chapter 34, verse 10. Don't even think that God is evil. Which means, just a second, but, I lost my cows, I lost my camels, I lost my children. Job is saying, why did God take them away from me? And the first thing is, don't put it on God. He didn't take it away from you. God does not do any evil. So where is the evil coming from? And the answer is, כי פועל אדם ישלם לו. Job 34, verse 11. People's actions backfire. What goes around, come around. We don't know what we have done, but because God is endless of goodness, He is not capable of doing evil. So where is the evil? When we block God's sharing, God's love. How do we block it? Oh, our actions, our emotions. So you don't want to block God's grace and love to you. So basically take over your own reactions, your negativities. Who opened the earth's mouth and swallowed up Koraḥ and his people? Their actions. Their actions. Not Moses, not God. It was not an act of God. Their dispute over Shalom, over peace, over the road for perfection of humanity. They were trying to basically take the first group of people that started on that journey of the correction of humanity, the people that came out of Egypt, and derail that project just because of their little ego, just because they wanted to feel somebody respected differently than what they are. They're not people of disrespect. They were people that had great jobs already and a lot of respect. Now they wanted other people's honor. That's derailing, the Zohar says, the project of the Creator to bring the world to peace. And the result was, because of their might, they were really powerful people. The earth swallowed them up. So it's a person's actions that give the payback. And how do we avoid, verse 17, and I'll finish with it. ועם כל זה אם ישים אליו ליבו. That's also Job 34, 34, verse 14. כיוון שהאדם משים ליבו ורצונו לשוב לפני אדונו, when a person is always concentrating to turn back to his master, to reconnect to God every moment, then he is רוחו ונשמתו אליו יאסוף. God will take to him his spirit, his soul, and that reconnection to the light of God, that will save us from making the mistakes. So the moment we realize that life is an ongoing war, like in the arena, you can't just rest in the arena. There's always the opponent, and this opponent is deep inside us. The moment we feel the hurt, this inner discomfort that brings us to hate others, to be annoyed by others, the first thing is to stop, full stop, go inside, destroy the negativity, reconnect to the light with no matter how much it will cost, and then take the direction and move on, clear the junction. And if you do that and you train yourself, you will find that your decisions won't be logical, but they will be really supportive for yourself to bring yourself to better places. And that's what life is about. Thank you so much, and a lot of success for all of us.